everybody. In this lesson, we're going to be looking into fonts and how we can style them and import them using CSS. So let's jump right into that. I'm going to generate the boilerplate code, and then in here, I'm going to add just a P element with a P1 class name. And then in here, I'll just do maybe lorem 5, which is going to give us 5 just random words. And then if we come down here, if I hit Shift, Alt, and then down arrow a few times, that's going to copy that line, and I'm going to make it P2, P3, and P4. So for styling this, what we can do is we can do the internal styling here. And I'm going to add a styling block here. And now I'm going to say all P1 classes we want styled with a font family. And basically this font family is going to be, if you're familiar with like Microsoft Word, this is simply selecting what font we want to use here. So we have a whole bunch of different options we can do. Like if we want a really basic one, we can do sans serif. And now if I save that and refresh my web page, you can see we've got the standard down for the bottom 3 because we haven't styled those at all. And then we have the sans serif font for our top one. But we had a bunch of different options there, so let's look at them. You'll notice, by the way, some of these, like down here, these all only have 1. And then up here, these have a few more than 1. So if I select like Times New Roman, I've got Times New Roman, and then Times, and then serif. So what's up with that? Well, basically, everything on this list here, everything on this list is going to be considered a web-safe font or a browser-safe font. And the reason it's on this list is because this is going to be fairly universal across devices, meaning if I select one of these fonts, everybody's browser should have that font, or at least one of these fonts. So if I select serif, everybody's browser is going to have that one. But if I delete that and instead of serif, I do Times New Roman, basically the reason that I have 3 of them here is this is going to be our font stack. So the first thing it's going to try to apply is this Times New Roman. And if that doesn't work, if it can't find that on the user's browser, then it will try Times. And if it can't find that, then it'll apply serif. And that way you can kind of have a control of what the user is going to see if the font you're trying to use isn't installed on their browser in the distant end. So to change this outside of here, because you can see, obviously, if I look here, we only have like 24 options. Not a whole lot of options, but if we want to give our website a little more unique, a little more authentic feel, then we might want to use a custom font for that as well. And what we can do, there's a couple different websites that you can go to. One is Adobe Fonts, and then another one is Google Fonts. So I'm just going to go to Google Fonts right now. And here it is, fonts.google.com. And down here, you just have a whole bunch of different options for fonts that you can choose. So if I were to click on any one of these in here, let's just take, this one looks nice and unique. We're going to take this one, Dancing Script. And down here, you'll see I've got my regular 400, my 500, 600 semi-bold, and then bold for 700. So this is what this font is going to look like at these different font weight levels. And I'll show you how you can set the font weight in CSS in just a minute. But if we just want to get this font into our application so that we can run it on our web page, if I just click on one of these, you'll see it pops up this sidebar. And in this sidebar, I've got a link, and then I've got an import here. So if I am doing internal styles like we are here, if I just copy this link and then paste it just above my style element, now I should be able to use this code, or rather this font within this file. And to do that, again, down here, I can just copy this font family dancing script file, or line rather, and paste that right there. Now if I save that and go back to our website, you can see we have that dancing script. And again, you see here we have 400, 500, 600, 700. So that is going to actually be our font weight. So if I do font weight and I do 700 and then save that, you can see now we have a much bolder looking font there. And let me make this a little bigger too. So we have our font size, and I'll just set that equal to 40 pixels for now. We'll come back to that in a minute. So there we go. There's our new font that we have, and it's set to 700. If I set that actually to bold and then save, you see it looks exactly the same. And that's because if you look on this script, the bold is the same as 700. Now coming back to this font size, right now I have it set to 40 pixels, and that's fine, except pixels is a static measurement, so that's not going to change relative to what size screen we're on here. So if we're on a smaller screen, we might want that to resize, where if we're on a bigger screen, then we might not want that to be smaller. We might also want that to resize and be bigger. So to achieve that, instead of using pixels, there's a couple of different measurements that you can use, or units that you can use rather. So if I say like 2em and then save that file, there we go. You can see now it's a little bit smaller. Maybe I'll make that 3em just so you can see it. There we go. And basically what this is doing is it's saying 3 times the font size of the immediate element of the immediate parent element. So whatever that is, then we're going to multiply that by 3. And then also another common one you'll see is REM. And instead of the immediate parent element, what this is going to be 3 times the font size of the root parent element. So if I save that, it doesn't actually change, because in this case, our immediate parent element and then our root parent element have the same font size. So it doesn't change at all, but that's just another measurement that you can use. Another one is you have the viewport width and the viewport height. So if I say maybe 10 viewport width, or VW, save that, you can see now each one of these letters, or this font, is now going to be 10% of the viewport width. So I have a similar thing with the viewport height. So if I save that, now this is 10% of the viewport height. So as you might expect, if I change this to 100% viewport height, well, now here's my letter, and it pretty much takes up the entire viewport height. So that's way too big. We don't want that, but just demonstrating what that does. Another thing you can do is you can actually just hard code this into inches. So there's 10 inches or 10 centimeters, or you can do millimeters as well. And you can just hard code those units right in. But for now, let's go ahead and just leave that at 4 rem. And let's try to put a different font on the next one down here. So let's add a P2 style tag in here. Now let's add actually another font family here. So we're going to say font family, and this one, I don't want to pick one of the WebSafe font families. I want to go get another web font family, so one that we get from Google Fonts. Roboto is one that I tend to like, so let's go ahead and click on that one, find one that you like, maybe regular 400, and then inside this Roboto, again, we have the link, but we also have the import. We haven't looked at that one yet, so let's have a look at that. And basically, if I take this style, I can import this. I already have the style tags, so what I can do is I can grab this line and I can import this directly inside of my style here. Or if I don't want to do that, another place I could do that, and even a probably a more common place if you're following best practice, is we're going to have a linked CSS file to this. So I can do link CSS, and then, whoops, not lint CSS, link CSS, and then in here you have this style.css. Let's open that up. If I do a paste in there, now I should actually have my, I have the ability to use this directly within my CSS without actually having to import it into my HTML file. So if I take this P2, and instead of defining the style in the HTML file, if I put the P2 into my CSS file and then copy down here where I say font family, let's copy that font family for Roboto, paste it in there, and now if I hit save, you can see we get that. Okay, what is going on? Oh, I got to save actually my index.html too. So let's save that. And now you can see that the font was changed. And actually, let's take that font size out of the P1, and I'm just going to put it in a P tag up here so that all of my lines are that size. Now, if you save it, you see we've got our first kind of cursive looking text up here, and then you've got our Roboto font down here, and then you have your standard, I think this is Times New Roman font down here. So another thing that I'll mention here, and in the P tab, I'll just put this, is we have something called, we have our font size, but we also have our line height. And if I set this to 0%, for example, and then save that, well, now we have no spacing at all between our lines. In fact, we even have this one overruns the line and ends up down here a little bit. So this is not at all what we want. So we're gonna have to fix that. So if I set it to 100%, you can see what it's doing now. And actually, if I set that to maybe 300% and then save it, well, now we have big gaps between all of our lines. So this is just for spacing out your different lines in your different paragraphs. So let's go back to, you can do a percentage. You also have normal and a whole bunch of other options here. You have inches, you have vmin, vmax, view width, 0 view width, and then 0 view height. So you can do the viewport height. So if we wanted maybe 10% of the viewport height, we could do that. Or if you wanted 100% of the viewport height, you could do that. And then you're pretty much only going to see one line at a time. And that's just another attribute that you can affect or that you can change, that view height. Okay, let's see what else we have. We did size, we did height, we did family, we did weight. Obviously, you have the color. If I just do color here, this color is going to be that font color. So if I change that, then that's going to change that to an aquamarine color. And then also, before I told you in when we were doing HTML, we had the italics tag that we had. And if we wanted to make anything italics, what we could do is we could put it inside of this I tag here. I'm going to save that. And now you see we have that text as italics. It's italicized in our web page here. But I told you that that's not the best practice. We actually would rather do that with CSS and not with HTML. So to do that, let's get rid of that tag. And to do that in CSS instead, what I need to do is go to where I'm styling my P2. And then in here, instead of, well, after this font family, what we can do is we can say font style. And then we have italic and normal. So if I just set that to italic, now you can see we can actually apply that italicized style with the CSS itself. And if you ever have any question about what exactly these attributes in CSS are doing, you can hover over it and then you'll get this link for an MDN reference. And as you can see here, that's a link to developer.mozilla.org. So if you click on that link and copy it, paste it up in your browser, you'll see that this is actually going to give us a pretty much the documentation from Mozilla for this CSS attribute. So if you ever have any question about an attribute that you run across, you can always look it up and look at the documentation and kind of see what the different options are and what the different formats and syntax are for that. Hopefully this video has been helpful in getting you to understand the different options for fonts and the different styling methods for fonts inside of CSS. If you found it helpful, make sure to leave a comment down below, subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any future content, and then we will see you in the next video.